Keep telling me to hydrate. That's what I do, but then, you know, bathroom happens. Okay, so we talked with him. We sold a bunch of stuff. We bought a bunch of stuff. Let's go see Lan here. Did you say Lan? Lan greets you with a nod. Here for a chat. I've been waiting for you to come and see what strange beast you've taken into your party. But I'd like to know more about you. Let me guess. Your first question is, can you wear a hat with your one horn? Am I right? Well, I mean, sure. So, can you wear a hat with your one horn? Sure I can, but certain designs don't suit me too well. Lan speaks with a deadly serious voice. Oh, okay, I didn't mean to, like, insult you or anything. You speak common much better than the rest of your tribe. Funnily enough, common isn't all that common on the ground, Lan says, but your observation is correct. I used to live on the surface with my parents for a while, and had the chance to learn a couple things. The language, and the fact that every peasant who sees my scaly mug screams, "Demon!" and runs away. Well, true. Hey, Zerix! Love your face, man. Thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate it. You're awesome. Just finished your family stuff? Nice. What did you do tonight? Anything special? And I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. I don't know if you're interested, but my mom wasn't from an underground tribe. She was a smuggler, the kind that used the demons of Canabris to secretly move and store goods. The dungeon, sorry. One time, two gangs couldn't agree on how to share a prime cut, got into a fight, and the winner threw the losers down a hole, dead and living alike. My dad went to check if the corpses had anything useful on them, and he found a girl from the surface, barely clinging to life. An incredible feeling sparked between them. Or maybe the girl just liked men with scales and a cat nose. That might be it. One way or another, he got her back on her feet, and he later even left his home caves. She left her smuggling behind, and they began an honest life together. That's the delightful story of how old Lan came into this world. The next chapter, however, my family and I never stayed in one place for too long. We lived sometimes on the surface, sometimes on the ground. We couldn't find a place to call home. Living in the caves was hard on my mom, and my dad's appearance raised too many questions in Mendev. They're at war against the demons, after all. In the end, my parents decided to stop making each other miserable and separated. Aww. My father and I returned to our tribe. I think the peasants screaming, "Demon!" had something to do with it. Or maybe Dad just couldn't stand life without rat tail soup. I wouldn't rule out the possibility. Oh, that's super sad. Did you come with me so you could see the surface again? Dale's Thursday. Yes. Yes. Wait, no. Friday. I'm wrong. It's Friday. What am I talking about? I keep thinking Thursday's the 10th, but it's not. Yeah, it's a mistake. Yeah. So, well, I mean, that means we'll play more of this on Thursday. Great. Fantastic. I'm not going to complain, mind you. So apologies, guys. I made a mistake. In fact, let me fix it in the title. I'm a big dum-dum. Oh, it's all good, Zyrix. I completely understand. Yeah. Yeah, I get it. It's all good, dude. Though, you probably will play it a lot faster than I do, so it's entirely possible that you'll get ahead of me and you'll be able to come by again. But at least, like, whenever I play this, you're gonna be able to stop by, though. No, there's not. No, there isn't. I'm just a big dummy. Yeah. No, not by Friday. No, of course not. But, like, I mean, like, down the line. Like, the first few days, probably not. But, like, eventually, knowing the speed at which I run things is probably going to take me a while. So, yeah, chances are you'll go ahead of me, for sure. No, that wasn't it. I just don't have much patience for certain types of creatures. Demons, I mean. If they want to destroy Canabris, I'll be on the side of the people they're attacking. Lan looks away. Well, I mean, that's good. Lan, you're my companion, and companions should trust each other. I'm counting on you to give me honest answers, not excuses. Lan looks ashamed. I guess you're right. I shouldn't have been so evasive. It's just that some things are hard to talk about. My family, for example. My birth, hell take me, turned out to be a great misfortune for my parents. All because I'm relatively healthy. I'm the best thing that can come from marriage between a cave-dwelling mongrel and anyone from the surface. A healthy child with the right number of hands and feet. No apparent defect, no missing organs or other problems. They saw hope in me, so risked having more children. They thought it would somehow be alright. A growl edges into Lan's voice. I could have had four brothers. The first was born 2 years after me and died 3 years later. He didn't have a nose. Nothing even remotely resembling one. He could only breathe through his mouth. Mom and Dad were afraid to take their eyes off him for fear he'd choke and suffocate on something. But in the end, it was his weak heart that killed him. Oh, that's super sad, dude. Oh my god. Like all Sunday playing it? Nice. Yeah, super cool. Then there was another pregnancy, a birth. I pretended I was sleeping, but snuck out of my bedroom and listened under the door. All those hours, it was very strange, but I never heard the newborn screaming. Mom moaning yes, the priest praying. Then I dared to open the door a little and looked inside. The priest stood there very pale. One of them was holding something, a small object that fit in his palm. He asked, "Do you know what this is?" And the other said, "I think it's a head." Oh my god! Please go on. Lan pauses, exhales, and continues in a steadier voice. It turned out that this time Mom was expecting triplets. The first of the babies was born in pieces, and the two others didn't live long enough to draw their first breath. About 3 weeks later, my father took me to the caves. He didn't want to leave. I could see it in his face, but I think my mom and E decided it together. The curse my people have carried since the first crusade stood between them, not to mention the 4 dead babies. And old age was rapidly taking its toll on my father. After we returned to the cave, he only lived another 4 years. Oh my god, dude. Yes, it is. It's coming out on Friday. Yeah. Hey, Shy Sly, I am. Yes, I am. We've been playing this game on the hard. Yeah. Like Co. But yeah, it's been super fun. And we're still at the very beginning. I just finished the tutorial area at the beginning. So if you're asking me why I decided to go up with you to the surface and join the Crusaders, well, the answer is I've always wanted to. I was afraid to leaving my tribe, but it always haunted me that I'd die in a world where 4 crusades could do nothing to stop the beasts from the abyss, and the number of victims kept growing. I want to change that, or at least try to. Super nice. Yeah, it's coming out on Friday. Yeah, on the 10th. So you can imagine at work has been pretty crazy. Because, you know, we're like on the eve of the game releasing. So, yeah. And if changing things is too much to ask, then at least get a little revenge. The ones who are behind the world wound owe me a great debt. The lives of 4 brothers, all my mother's tears, my father's broken heart. It's a lot. It's so much that killing a couple of demons won't do it for me. I want to do something real, and I'm ready to pay any price. Call it my personal crusade if you like. Lan gives you a slanted grin. I used to think that things would be better if I'd never been born, but now I think I was born for this, to settle the score. Why don't you go up and join the Crusaders before? I couldn't just abandon my tribe, and I'm their best hunter. They'll have it much harder without me, but now that the demons have nearly destroyed Canabras and the caves almost collapsed on our head, sitting and waiting it out just wasn't an option anymore. Anyway, I'm more useful up there than I am down there. Plus, the chief let me go, which means my debt to the tribe has been paid. Would you like to find your mother? No. The word flies from Lan's mouth faster than an arrow. Then after a pause, he continues. I don't want to meet her, not because I feel any resentment. It's just that she's a half-elf. She's barely got her first gray hair, and I'll be a ramshackle old man. She's buried enough children. There's no need to make her witness the death of another one. I hope you understand. So, because like she'll live longer than he does. So, even if he meets her, eventually he'll die of old age and she won't. Or at least not right away. Yeah, that's why it's been crazy. Yes, exactly, Sub. Exactly. So Shysly, have you been enjoying like Coast playthrough? Have you been watching the game at all? Have you been playing it yourself? I'm curious. I'm very sorry, truly. Wait. Lan smiles, this time sadly. Well then I'm very lucky. I met someone who not only helped me choose the right path, but is happy to listen to my whining. Well, it's not whining. Your parents' love didn't survive hardship, but that doesn't mean the same thing will happen to you. What if you find true love, someone who won't leave you no matter what? I mean... that feels like it's heading towards romance, and I don't want to romance Lan. Well, thanks for sharing, Lan. Thanks for listening. Okay. Mongrels have short lifespan, but you don't look like you're getting old or dying. How old are you? Lan chuckles. I'm as old as I look. No surprises there. But remember Sol? He's 10 years older than me. What? He looks so old. I remember him back when he was a fearless warrior, and day by day I watched him turn into an old man. Him and my father. So I guess because like he has some elf blood in him a little bit. It happens very quickly. First you miss a shot because you don't see the target as clearly as you used to. You think it's because your eyes are tired. You tell yourself it'll get better tomorrow. Then you notice you're having trouble breathing. That climbing is harder than before. Lan clenches and unclenches his human fists. Your fingers stop bending. You have to tie your sword to your hand. You can't even put your greaves without help. When you're washing your face in a stream, sometimes you catch the sight of a gray-haired, wrinkled old man you don't recognize. And this goes on until one day you come across a cave beast and you realize you can't unrun it. Lan takes a breath. My dad kept diaries marking all the signs, and I saw it too. The last year, I had to help him get out of bed, help him dress, remind him to eat. Sometimes he forgot my name. I told him that we should have stayed on the surface, and he joked that dodging a goddess was behavior unworthy of a crusader. He meant Pharasma. Every morning, I wake up and check how I feel, but there are no signs yet. Even so, I know I don't have much time. I need to do something useful before I forget why I came here. Wow. I want to talk about Windwag. Are you sure? Alright. Tell me about your connection to Windwag. My connection to Windwag? I mean, where do I start? Lan turns the unexpressive reptile half of his face to you. We grew up together, trained together. She was the chief's daughter. She was groomed to be the best all her life, and then I came along. We were rivals, but we dragged each other out of tight spots too. I've always been drawn to grand heroic gestures, sometimes idiotic ones too, whereas Windu liked to roam unexplored passages, finding new caves and making maps. She wanted to be a great huntress, the one who would make it through the shield maze, but instead she... Lan shakes his head. I'd be better if she died. The death of a friend is painful, but watching a friend become a shadow of their former self is unbearable. She doesn't think she's a shadow of her former self, though. Of course, she thinks she did everything right, because the second she starts to doubt herself, she'll have to face the truth. To admit that she's just a cannibal that demons use as they wish. Lan's frown looks almost like a wince. She wants to get stronger and stronger, but for what? I'll never understand what drives her. Were you just friends, or were you more than that? Wow, you really don't pull your punches, do you? Lan exhales loudly. There was a time when I asked myself the same question. Windwag knew me better than anyone. She understood me better than anyone. She was the first girl I ever, you know. But we never loved each other. Maybe I could have grown to love her, but it always seemed like she never understood what love was. Maybe she just wasn't capable of those kinds of feelings. Thanks. Yeah, we're good. Tell me about your people. And I will, thank you. Of course, what would you like to know? What's it like living in your caves? Oh, Lan gives you a broad smile. His smile is strange, as if it falters where his human features meet his animal ones. Imagine that in the entire world, there's only a few hundred like you. There's not an inch of fertile ground anywhere. Nowhere to grow grain for bread, or cotton and linen for cloth. Your neighbors are beasts who want to eat you, or parasites who want to infect you with their larvae, and then eat you. Ugh. Hey, Zarix. Love it. This is the way, Mandalorian power armor? Ah, that sounds awesome. And it's not that bad, because you can try to eat most of the things that are trying to eat you, sometimes at a risk of getting poisoned, sometimes with almost no risk at all. In the worst years, there's not a single living thing anywhere to be found, predator or prey. That's when you eat mushroom soup. I'd say 3 times a day, but there was barely enough for once every 3 days. Land shrugs, but life underground has its upsides. Pun intended. There's no risks of losing the roof over your head. There's no bad weather, not counting the earthquakes, of course. Are you ready, the descendants of the first Crusaders? More like demon spawns, aren't we? Sad but true. Without the demons, there would be no mongrels. It's the magic of the world wound that affected our ancestors and made their children the way we are. Like most in our tribe, Chief Soul fancies himself a descendant of the underground Crusaders, the ones our heroic ancestors left to guard the caves. I don't know if it's true or not. That angel came to our cave for a reason. Maybe he remembered us. Those were evil and dangerous times after the First Crusade. Hundreds of Crusaders began having children. The babies were born with fangs and horns and warts that covered half their face. People didn't like the new look. The Inquisitors sure didn't. So our ancestors fled persecution and made a home for themselves down there, under the ground. They probably intended to find a cure for their children, hoped to return in time, but it never happened. Instead, the world wound's terrible legacy was passed down from generation to generation. Mongrel parents can only guess what their child would look like. Each of us is born with a new mutation. Many mutations are fatal. Land stops and goes on quietly. Down in the caves, we usually don't congratulate the family for the birth of a child until they turn at least 3. Most don't even get a name before that. There's no point. Wow, dude. Wow, that's rough, man. It hasn't been that long since the First Crusade. Why do you know so little about your ancestors? Our lives are much shorter than most uplanders. Up here, only a few generations pass, and many still live who remember hold Sarkoris as it stood untouched by the demons. Queen Galfrey, for example. But where we live, mongrels start getting old much earlier than humans, much faster, and with more devastating consequences. Few live past 40, and fewer still live long enough to die of old age. Hunger, disease, and monsters from the deep are more effective killers than time. Sarkoris? Savage land fiercely painted by warriors, shamans, and druids established in Blah a few years before the prophesied return of Aradans during demonic cults began there. Ah, so Sarkoris is the name of the land before the World Wound. Okay. So for us, the story of the First Crusade is a legend that happened generations ago. There are no living witnesses. We have a tale of the wise and the great ancestors who left us to stand guard in the catacombs, but in reality, I suspect they were desperate wretches who couldn't figure out how to dispel the demonic plague and who were abandoned by their own kind. You have a way to tell day and night? You can't see the sun in your caves. Every mongrel settlement has a big gong, which we treat like a relic. The gong keeper hits it twice a day to mark the beginning and end. But this custom doesn't keep time very precisely. Every mongrel child has snuck up to the gong to strike it at the wrong time at least once, just out of pure mischief. Nothing could keep me away from it, not even the fact that I only have one ear, which means it would take I would take double the punishment once I was caught. So sometimes the wrong strikes get mixed in with the right ones, and the tribes can find itself jumping up to greet the morning in the middle of the night. Wow. Well, that's weird. Do mongrel tribes fight each other? There were some skirmishes, and I've been forced to kill my kinfolk before too. Land speaks in a steady voice. Fights most often break out over food. We have laws in the caves, written and unwritten rules that we follow. We respect one another's right to live, but hunger, it can push a person over the edge. True. I've never, you can count on that, stolen someone else's skill. But I can understand those of my kin who tried. To hear your kids begging for food and not be able to feed them is terrifying. He frowns and goes silent. You're the only member of the Neat-Ohm tribe to call your people mongrels. Why is that? Because all of Golarion calls us that? I don't see the point of all this hemming and hawing over what we're called. Anyone who finds it offensive or takes issues with it can lead the charge against the name. No one's stopping them. But personally, I'm not going to pick a fight over something as unimportant as a name. Okay. What do you think of the surface? It must be very different from life underground. Of course, as far as living conditions, the surface is definitely a better place to be. It's easier to get good food and water, not to mention build a house and even grow a few things. In older, well-established settlements, you don't have to deal with anything scarier than rats or maybe foxes stealing chickens. As for the kind of lives you have, I heard a story about demon worshippers abducting a whole family and sacrificing them one by one while the others watched. But there were some brave Crusaders knights nearby and they killed the villains and saved everyone. And I heard another story. A young blacksmith lost his arm in a fire, couldn't work to feed his wife and baby. They tried their best and lived from hand to mouth, but they were still destitute. In the end, the desperate blacksmith robbed a traveler one night on the road. But there were some brave Crusader knights nearby and they caught the robber and threw him in prison. Not long after, his wife smothered her baby and hanged herself. Oh my god. Jesus. Up here, the same person can proudly say he's protecting the innocent from demons and then look the other way while the same innocent starves just because they were born into a poor family. Queen Galfrey prolongs her life with sun or kid elixirs that costs enough to feed an entire city. Back in our caves, everyone is equally poor, and if one person starves, the whole tribe starves. We don't abandon our own in times of trouble. That's the power of a tribe. The laws of the surface are made so that some get everything and others get nothing. I might just be a naive fool from the caves, but I don't understand how it's possible to have so much more and share so much less. Anyway, look who I'm talking to. You must know life on the surface much better than I do. I never leave a needy person in trouble. I've been given more than most, which means I'm now more able to help others. A fitting reply. Don't take my words as a reproach. I like grumbling as much as cracking jokes. Lan is obviously trying to muster a friendly smile, but it's an expression his face doesn't accommodate very naturally. You said you were prepared to risk your life to do something meaningful. What exactly did you mean? To invent a new salad and have it named after me. Lan remarks grimly, then he sighs. Truth be told, I don't know. It would be much easier if all I really wanted was to kill demons, then a few more demons, then more demons after that. Good, honest rage and no needless brooding. I think I actually envy the warriors who can live like that. But I can't. If life's taught me anything, is that there are no easy choices. Dying a glorious death isn't enough. Some heroes of the Crusades did that and also saved entire settlements, erected the Wardstone. Their actions kept the lands of Mendev safe for decades. That's what I want, for my dumb short life to have meant something. Aroden defeated the cult dedicated to the demon lord Discari, making the north of Eviston safe from demonic influence. However, this prediction ended with Aroden's death in 4606, the same year the ward wound was opened by the witch Aurelu Vorlesh, working in conjunction with her demonic patron Discari. Demons poured out and overran the barbarian nations of Sarkaris. The world wound was not large at first, but soon as it abruptly expanded. As it kept growing, it came to be seen as a threat to the entire world. The remaining clerics of Aroden and the clerics of his follower Ayamade took it upon themselves to defeat the demon and seal the world wound. Answering the call, thousands of pilgrims crusaders flooded up the river road and into Mendev, the nearest neighboring kingdom of former Sarkaris. Thus the Mendevian Crusades were born. Okay. Interesting. You'd think it's I have an exaggerated opinion of myself. Some scaly freak crawls out of the caves and wants to take control of the Wardstones and flaunt Ayamede's banner. Any fool can charge the front lines of the demonic armies and die there, but what good will that do? I want something meaningful, you know? Even if I have to pay the highest price, especially if I have to pay it. There are plenty of warrior people who need to survive this war and tell everyone else what nutcases we were. True. Okay. So that was him. So we can talk to Sela. Oh, can we talk to Irabeth? Any success out of the city? What is your main objective? You heard what the demon said. They're going to desecrate the Wardstone and blow up the whole barrier around the World Wound. That would be an even worse disaster than the World Wound's expansion before the Second Crusade. Not only Canabris, but every city with a Wardstone will be destroyed, including the capital. We can't allow that. No matter what, we will retake it and even destroy it if we must. Okay. I'm pretty sure she's told me that before. These Wardstones, what are they? They are our greatest treasures, the shield given to us by Yamade herself, emplaced in Canabris and other Mendavian cities and fortress by her herald. The chain of worn stones form a protective barrier that stops the expansion of the world wound and keep the demon from moving beyond its border. I shudder to think what will happen if the barrier falls. A personal question. Frowning a little, Irabeth nods. Please, but I must warn you, there are some things I don't have the right to discuss. Where are you from? I was born in Canabris. I grew up on a farm just outside of it, but my way back home lay at the end of a long and winding road. It took me years of traveling through foreign lands before I came to be where I've always belonged. How did you become a paladin? A bitter smile appears on the half-orc's face. I don't much like to remember it. Believe it or not, the story of how I became a paladin is also the story of how I failed to become a knight. My parents were crusaders, made their souls stand together in Yamade's celestial army. When I was born, they retired from the war and started preparing me to continue their legacy. But my father was an orc. You'd be pressed to find a calmer, wiser, and more pious servant of the goddess than he. But still, all his life he was dogged by sideways looks and whispers. When I grew up older and it was time for me to serve, I decided anywhere but Canabris. That was where my father had served loyally, and his only reward had been injustice. Besides, the witch hunters led by the honorable prelate Horun stalked the city with a heavy hand. Who knows what they'd have done to a strange girl with green skin. Instead, I wanted to... A smirk that looks more like a painful grimace crossed her face. You can laugh if you want, but I was young and foolish. I chose Last Wall of all places. You can imagine how well I was accepted in a country that's been battling the orcs of Belkzen since its foundation. Oh my god. Oh, thank you so much, sub. There are many there like me, but we were all treated as second-class citizens. To the locals, my green skin was worse than leper scabs. Even my brothers in faith kept their distance. I took my vows, and the goddess granted me the powers of a paladin. But even then, not a single order would accept me into the ranks. I spent another 6 months knocking on doors before I realized the simple truth. I served Ayomide, not these people. I don't have to prostrate myself before them, so I left as a paladin, but not a knight. You must stick out like a sore thumb no matter where you go, right? I know many people envy Asimaar, but most of the ones I found, their celestial heritage a burden. I find it hard to imagine what unasked for adoration must be like, but I'm sure it doesn't make life any easier or any more pleasant. How'd you join the knightly order? I left Last Wall and went traveling. The goddess guided me, and my path led me to where atrocities were happening. I often fought in exchange for gold, but never for unworthy aims. Of course, I wandered the river kingdoms for a few years, killing monsters and tracking down criminals. Sometimes I thought I was just wasting time, that my true place was in Canabris, but I pushed those thoughts away. I didn't even want to think about going back, but in the end, divine providence had brought me to my senses. It happened in Timon. I was tracking a gang of bandits, which my employer suspected was a cover for Rasmiran spies. The realm known as Rasmiran was just another turbulent, violent river kingdom, the Archduchy of Melkat, where leadership changed as often as the years. This ended in 4661 when the land was conquered by Rasmir, a tyrant claiming to have ascended to godhood. Oh my god. I managed to find their lair, but inside I found something far more dangerous than spies, an unholy temple to Zon Kuthan. The deity Zon Kuthan, also known as the Midnight Lord, the Dark Prince, or the Prince of Pain, god of darkness, envy, loss, and pain, possesses one of the most twisted and evil minds in the great beyond. His position as god of pain is well earned, and he has been the root of countless tortures, murders, and worse throughout time. He was once a benevolent demigod named Dubrao, who was corrupted when he traveled to the far dark places between the planes and returned in his current form. His half-sister Shellin still holds out hope that she can redeem him, though the Lord of Shadows shows no sign of remorse or compassion. Damn. When I broke in there, the cultists were about to sacrifice someone, the person who was destined to become my wife, Anivia. But that's another story. After I cut down the cultists, I examined their papers and couldn't believe my eyes. A network of evil cults had spread through all of Avistan, including Mendev. Worse, the document clearly showed that their allies, the Templars of the Ivory Labyrinth, pledging their lives to Baphomet, these cultists schemed to subvert the good work of the Crusaders. They caused trouble in Crusader camps, instigating fights and egging participants to greater violence. They spread lies and sow the seeds of fear with voices sweetened by magic. Some have even assumed the role of holy Crusaders and risen in the ranks of other knightly orders, waiting for the moment when their treachery can be used to achieve a most foul end. Jesus. These are the people we fought, I think. Or at least like a version of that. The cultists of Baphomet we fought in the labyrinth. I'd infested my native Canabris and were even among the rank of the paladins. After that, delaying my homecoming would be tantamount to desertion. Luckily, I was no longer alone. Anivia was so eager to destroy the cultists as I was. Anivia and I hurried to Canabris. We couldn't trust anyone. The papers indicated that the cultists had infiltrated everything. Luckily, I had some experience in investigation, and my beloved, the half-orc, smiles warmly. Hey, Static! Oh my god, thank you so much for the raid! Love your face, man. Thank you so much for that. That's amazing. What were you playing? She knew her way around working lock, staining people, and trading information with the city's bottom feeders. Soon, we defeated, alas, not the whole Hydra, but a few of its head. Do you know who turned out to be the leader of the cultists? The commander of the Eagle Watch. What? Okay. Hey, hold on, guys. Let's do a streamer battle at the same time. And also do a cast recommend. Zarius, are you still around? If so, can you do a cast recommend for Static? That'd be nice.